Folks, I'm standing by at this time with one of my own personal favorites, Mr. Anderson, formerly Mr. Kennedy of the WWE, now in TNA and all over the place. Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson, for joining us.
Good to be.
First question I got to ask is, I always wanted to know, and a lot of fans do, who came up with the microphone with the coming from the ceiling? I thought that was so original.
It was a bunch of people. Paul Heyman had a huge part in it. But it was Paul Heyman who initially came up with the idea for me to announce myself. Mm-hmm. And I threw in the last name twice, and a couple other people had their hands in the pot, but it was a good, all-inclusive conglomeration.
And you, a lot of people don't know this, but you actually worked for TNA before going to WWE the first time, right?
I did some dark matches for them. I never actually worked for them. I wasn't under contract or anything like that, but I did some dark matches. I did a bunch of dark matches. I did a bunch of dark matches for WWE, like probably 10.
Is that how you got into WWE?
Yep, I just kept going, sending tapes, doing dark matches, going there and just getting in the ring during the day and working out in front of the agents. And slowly but surely, we got to know everybody. And it took 6.5 years of getting told no.
And who do you credit for your early success in WWE? Who were some of your biggest supporters?
Me. I credit me. No, I'm kidding. No, Paul Heyman was a huge help for me. Arn Anderson, Fit Finlay, Tommy Dreamer. It was all these guys that sort of gave me my initial push. And then there were a lot of people. Vince McMahon was an early supporter, yeah. And
a lot of people don't know this as well, but you wrestled Eddie Guerrero in his final match. Do you have any memories of Eddie Guerrero?
I got to ride in the car with him for a couple weeks. I rode with him and Benoit for a while. I just remember I was driving the whole time because I was a young guy. And I remember Eddie kept farting, like terribly. It was just, you'd all of a sudden you'd hear like this little come out of the back seat. Sorry, guys. Fucking roll the windows down.
Now, do you enjoy working as a heel or a babyface more?
Well, they both have their unique challenges. It's really hard to get people to genuinely like you. It's really easy to get people to hate you. But as a bad guy, as a heel, you get to do and say all the things that people normally want to do and say but would get in trouble for. But I sort of blurred that line, I think. I tend to be able to get away with sort of saying whatever it is that I want.
You just mentioned Vince McMahon. He was an early supporter of yours in WWE. His middle name is also Kennedy. Now, you were originally slated to be the illegitimate son for Vince McMahon. I think the role was going to be in your hometown in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yep. What can you tell us about that?
They came to me and said, "Here's the deal, and this is going to be your thing," and then ended up a little twist of fate at the end, and I got in trouble, and I gave it to Hornswoggle.
Because it seemed like it was so mapped out. It was going to be like a year-long plan. It was probably going to give you like a job for life, basically, because you were going to be the man. You're going to be like McMahon's son and probably lead it, and probably that's why they had you as the Money in the Bank winner, right? Or
well, I fucked that all up, didn't I?
How?
I don't know. It's just.
Don't a lot of wrestlers mess up? But if you're talented, they have to still put you in the spotlight, right?
They don't have to. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do. It's Vince's company at the end of the day. So, and he's got his advisors, and
but
they advise him.
Without getting into too much, but what exactly happened?
A lot of missteps on my part, politically, and yeah, at the end of the day, we decided to part ways, and that's it. But the thing is it's wrestling industry, and that happens all the time. And, Sable sued the company for a lot of money, and she ended up back there. And so who knows?
Ultimate Warrior, everybody's
Ultimate Warrior, yeah, People have done far worse things than whatever it was that I did. So it's not the end of the day.
Now, somebody like John Cena, who was dubbed as the next Steve Austin or The Rock in the new millennium, why hasn't he not gotten the responses that they wanted to, like a guy like Austin or Rock? Because it seemed like you had that personality to come to life, but they just didn't put it on you, but they gave it to Cena. Can you?
Well, I don't think. Cena's an amazing talent, His work ethic is second to none. He doesn't quite have the charisma that Rock and Austin had. I don't think it's not a natural. When he grabs the microphone and talks, it sounds like he's reading it off a script, whereas Rock and Austin just speak off the top of their head.
Or when Rock is reading it off his arm.
Well, one time in his life, and he got busted for it. Yeah. But other than that, every time you saw The Rock go out there and deliver a promo, he knocked it out of the park. So, I think that has a lot to do with it, and at the end of the day, he sells tons of merchandise, and that's really what they care about, and that's really where they make a lot of their money. And Vince doesn't really care as long as the fans are making sound. He doesn't care if it's boos or cheers.
And your promos were a lot genuine because it didn't come across as scripted or choreographed like it is today, currently in the product. Did you have a lot of freedom with your promos?
I did, especially in the beginning. I had a lot of freedom, and then they sort of started dialing me in and telling me say this exactly. And it's really hard. Wrestlers generally aren't actors. Mm-hmm. So you hand me this piece of paper and tell me to say these things and emote. You want me to put this emotion on it, and a lot of guys can't do it without sounding like it's coming off of a script. They just can't make it conversational.
Now you talk about acting. You were involved in some acting as well for WWE films. Which films were that?
Behind Enemy Lines, Colombia.
What was that like? How long was the filming for that movie?
We filmed for, I believe it was 4 or 5 weeks in Puerto Rico, and it was a really fun experience. It's exhausting. I mean, film is hard work. It's Monday through Friday, but it's like crazy hours. You got to get up early in the morning, and
it's almost a blessing in disguise because you're resting your body and you're not on the road. I mean, a lot of wrestlers say that as well.
Yes, but the film was actually pretty physical, so we were out in the jungle kind of running around sweating and carrying a lot of heavy equipment and stuff like that.
Wrestlers don't get a lot of credit. They do their own stunts. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, right. We were basically stuntmen, and we're one-shot actors. So it's like theater meets, an action movie, but we don't get second takes. We don't get to say, cut, we screwed that up, we got to do it again. It's just... And a lot of times the really dangerous stuff that you see, the person has never done it before. We just kind of, like if somebody's going to fall off, like Jeff Hardy coming off a ladder, doing a swanton off the top of a ladder through a bunch of tables. He just kind of goes up there, looks at it during the day, and says, I think I can do that, and then goes up there and does it on the day and nails it every time. So,
your time in TNA, what's a favorite match or memory that stands out for you?
The stuff that I did with Kurt Angle is probably my favorite stuff. The lockdown match we had was one of my favorite matches that I've ever had in my career, and the stuff that I did with Sting was pretty awesome. And the fact that he first gave me the blessing to do that in the first place, because that was kind of my idea, and then the fact that I was using his old ring gear, and Sting actually did my face paint, because only Sting can do that makeup.
He has a reputation for helping a lot of guys. That he's not a selfish guy.
He's really not selfish at all. He's a fantastic human being.
What is your take on your perspective on the whole Billy Corgan with the TNA lawsuit? Do you think they could have handled that better?
I think it's unfortunate because I really like Billy a lot, and I think that he was a tremendous addition to TNA, and I think that he could have really helped them out a lot. And it's unfortunate that I think he took a gamble, and it unfortunately didn't pay off for him. I think we haven't seen the last of Billy Corgan. Hopefully he's able to kind of get his fingers in something else, maybe start his own thing again somewhere down the road.
And last question, where could fans see you right now? Like, do you have any, you believe you have a wrestling school, is that correct?
I do. I just opened up a wrestling school in Minneapolis with Sean Davari.
Oh.
And we have Eric Cannon, Aria Davari, who's currently cutting a name for himself in WWE. He's part of the 205 Live crew. And Molly Holly, WWE women's legend, former women's champion. She's also one of our trainers. So we just opened up. We have 36 students in our first class. So we're really looking forward to watching those guys grow.
And what do you look for in these students when they come in? Like, what if a new student came to you and said, I want to be a wrestler, what do they need to do?
They have to have money. No, they some athletic ability. And you know what? It doesn't matter, because there are people in the wrestling business who you would think, like if somebody saw Mick Foley years ago, they would say, oh, like that guy doesn't have any athletic ability. He was never going to make it. So if somebody has passion and a desire to do something in the wrestling business, you know what? You don't have to be a wrestler. You can be a manager. You can be a commentator. There's a million things that you can do behind the scenes in the wrestling business and contribute. You can be a writer, a booker, promoter, whatever, referee. So at the academy, we try to make sure that we kind of help people. And if you come to me and you say you want to be a wrestler, and after 2 weeks of falling down, you decide like this hurts and I don't want to do this anymore, but I still want to be part of the wrestling business, we'll figure out a way to, swerve you into whatever it is that you want to do.
Final question. What your all-time favorite match?
All-time favorite match, I'm going to have to go with WrestleMania 14, Austin versus Michaels, just because that was the match that really solidified my love for the wrestling business. I wasn't a wrestling fan growing up, and that was right around the time when I first started watching, and that match was like, this is awesome.
Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Folks, appreciate it.